Hello and welcome to Melbourne Geek Night. So, what got me thinking about Melbourne Geek Night YouTube gathering is I've often gone to YouTube meetups in a general sense from the Facebook group, and I've been wondering what do people find interesting, and I think the main thing they find interesting definitely is the sense of community that the YouTube community brings together. And so starting with that, I would like to do a traditional acknowledgement of the original owner. So I acknowledge that the traditional owner of the land on which we are meeting. I pay my respects to their elder, past and present, and to the Aboriginal elders of other communities who may be here today. So I would also like to say special thanks to the Melbourne Business Centre for sponsoring this centre, and we have Steve over here who runs this place. So,
Thanks, Steve.
yes. So to get started, we have David Nguyen, whose channel is called NU Sensei, and he covers basically archery for the archery community. And also we have Lisa Carroll, who is a vlogger covering on social issues and social media, and also a bit of comedy.
I'm actually a comedian. I just called it that because I wanted to take the piss out of Logan Paul.
So, and the next one is we have Andrew K, AngryAussie. He is quite definitely engaging to the point where he constantly gets hate mails and fan mails as well. It's okay.
That's bearing.
And also, anybody like Nev? We also have Justin Wilk.
And 3D printing.
Oh yes, make test battle. And so that being said, let's start the Melbourne Geek Night January 2020.
Okay, and I think Brian wants me to chair, which is good, which means I'm not going to talk much. I'm just going to introduce people, because if you can't tell, I have a little bit of a cold. My voice is not going to last all that long.
You can tell.
And as Lisa said, you're all lucky because I won't shut up otherwise in a normal phrase. So, so the theme is community building. I'll give a tiny bit of background on me. I started YouTube about a year after the site existed. One of the earliest friends I made on YouTube was an American called Corey Williams, who's had various extremely successful YouTube channels over the year, including SMP Films, Do Like Hella, Live Each Day. Now he's like a family vlogger. He used to be a comedian, now he's a family vlogger. He was the first person to organise an in-person meetup for YouTubers in the world. He was the first person to prove, and I mean a large-scale one in the US. He was the one who proved that people wanted to do it. He was doing it like 3-4 years at least before VidCon existed. And I got him to come out here, and we had an event out here. And then I started having regular meetups here. It was all good. And they were just like low-key events. And
what
then
was those events over in the States?
Corey had called his events a few different things. But then after he started doing them, then there'd be one every couple of months in different places in the US. And then after 4 or 5 years, I don't remember when VidCon first started. But people had been organising meetups for a few years, and then the commercial thing, VidCon, appeared, which is now huge beyond belief.
I think it was 2009 VidCon started.
Possibly?
I can Google
It
it.
was,
Yeah!
Ooh.
No, well, we could be ignorant.
Hey Google, when did VidCon start?
Yeah.
Won't talk to me.
Won't talk to you?
No.
It's not
Oh,
eavesdropping.
yeah, moving on.
So yeah, anyway, so I got Corey to come out here, we had meetups, and then one day, after we'd been doing these things for a couple years, another American guy came out here. His channel's called Dave Days. He was having a bit of a fling with a local lass, and thousands of people, well, hundreds to 1,500 people showed up just to see him. And that's when we started Facebook groups to sort of try and foster community, because it's much easier to do stuff with other people, or at least talk about stuff when you don't feel like Jake was just met earlier saying like, I'm going to start with YouTube, and my friends just look at me like I'm an idiot. And it's like being able to be with people where you don't have to explain what you're doing is really good, is good for motivation. So yeah, so I've sort of been working. There's a Facebook group for Melbourne YouTubers. There's one for Australian YouTubers. It's good to have both because you can do some stuff on a local group that's not as good at a national level, but you can also do some things with a national group that you can't do with a local group. So each of the capital cities has a local group, and then there's a national group. They're worth joining if you don't know about them because you find good people to talk to. And so that's why I'm here. And let's start at this end. David, explain yourself.
Okay. So I'm a high school teacher. That's my primary profession. I've been teaching for 10 years now. I guess it was a kind of a joke when kids were like, "Oh, you should do YouTube." Like, yeah, whatever. And 8 years I've got a silver play button, so jokes on them now. I put that thing hanging on my desk. Every kid that walks past, I just see this glaring silver play button. I say, "This could be 4 more years, it'll be gold." Okay, but I tell them, look, if you need something from a desk, just go to the one with the silver play button. You know where it is. It's a good flex. The kids love it because they see young people see social media as the thing, right? How many likes you have on your Facebook post, followers on Instagram, subs on YouTube, and like, oh, I've got 100 likes on my Instagram. Like, peasants. No idea. And it's actually a really fascinating connection because they're obviously young people up to like YouTubers and superstars and see me. I'm like, it's just this like chill teaching in the classroom. It just makes random stuff. But that's the whole point, is to kind of make it realise it's possible to succeed, but also to look behind the scenes as to what makes it work, the gears, the plot work.
So
and so
you
on.
also have direct contact with a generation that's grown up with it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, because I don't have any super young siblings or any. Well, I just became an uncle last year, so now I'm gonna see her grow up. But I went over to a friend's place. We had a Nerf group break up for Bendigo, and he's got 5 little ones, and I'd never seen this before, but the kids were watching Fortnite Let's Players, and I'm like, it actually is a thing. It's so, because I just remember watching ABC Kids all that growing up.
Yeah.
And the biggest change that's happened in the last 10 years is, this is an iPhone 4. This was the first iPhone with a Retina screen. It could do HD video, and it can play YouTube pretty well, watchable. And this is really old, obsolete technology at this point, and I'm just using it because I've used stuff into the ground. But now this is like the baseline standard. Children don't have to wait to get home to watch ABC Kids. They can start watching YouTube at school or on the way home, and that's how things have
I say the same thing too. Like I was in Sydney the other week. I was at an international event. I was staying with a family, and the kids watching YouTube on TV. You know, it's on TV now. Like, wow, that's you actually watching this stuff. Like, how they get 10 million views? It's great. Oh, it's the kids.
Yeah.
Oh, I get it now.
And
That's the mainstream.
Do you have to ban
And they watch it
phones at
over
school?
and over
Or
again.
at schools, you have to ban phones at school and all that?
Well, now we have to. So yeah, I mean, I'm pro phone myself. I think it's a backward step, but yeah, that's the thing. But hey, I'm a YouTuber. I still flex my YouTube channel. I make sure every single class is a requirement to be in my classroom now. So it's up on the channel. Not my secret, by the way, but it helps. It's a little flex. But yeah, so that's my platform. I'm mostly a teacher. Archery was my thing. I found archery as a hobby about a year after starting YouTube. My platform was, look, I wanted to learn a lot more. I'm a perfectionist, might be an Asian thing, but I love being exactly precise everything I do. And the moment I started learning archery, I wanted to find out everything about it. Googled it, YouTubed it. It's like 2 people doing it. Most of it's hunting, most of it's stuff I wasn't interested in, and there was pretty much no one there doing it. So I thought it'd be really nice if somebody did. And I'll wait for about 30 minutes, and I thought, okay, maybe someone should make this sort of stuff. And that's my first video, was doing reviews for like a finger tap. It's a $5 piece of leather, and nobody had done it before. And it's one of the most important things. It's like reviewing guitar picks or something. It's so simple, but nobody thought about doing it. So I did that. That got traction. They started asking for other things. Can you check out this model? Can you check out this? Can you do this? And that's what kind of built my community. I respond to what people really wanted, and knowing that it wasn't out there yet. I wasn't the best person to do it. No, I'm not the expert. I'm not the best person. I'm not the best coach or the best gold medalist athlete. But I was the best person at the time. So once I got that first step in, I started to kind of grow out my channel, cover more mainstream topics, and eventually become known in my own right for covering things in the sport. So that's my main community base. It's the sports community, or specifically the archery community. And a major part of what I do today, to recognise worldwide, is basically growing the entire sport. And I think we'll touch on it a bit later too. But part of my challenge is there are only so many people do archery. All right, so I've got a pretty close niche, but by growing the entire sport worldwide, I grow my channel. So that's part of my bigger goal, is to make sure everybody else has something to buy into, so people who want to do it now and in the future can have something to look up to. One of my mantras as a teacher is, be the teacher you wish you had. And the same thing as a YouTuber, be the creator you wish you had when you started.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing today.
Cool. So, Lisa, you yourself and how you've used YouTube and community and whatnots, and what
Okay.
you're doing.
Alright, so I am a comedian, and the reason I went to YouTube was that, to be honest with you, was the fact I was inspired by Lily Singh, Superwoman. I looked at the stand-up comedy scene, and what I saw was, and this relates to community, but it was a toxic community, and it was a very inward-looking community. It was a community that didn't support people, it tore each other down, and it was basically, if I like you, you'll go one day. And I stood there and I did it for about 3 months, and I was like, I'm just wasting my time. I got bullied by other women as well in the stand-up comedy community. And when I first decided I was going to do YouTube, funnily enough, it was you, Andrew, that messaged me. And he was like, oh, hi, I'm Andrew. By the way, I have lights and I have, green screens and all these different things. And I just found when I went into the YouTube community, what I got was basically help straight away. Lots of people were very lovely and very kind to me. And there was none of this, I'm trying to one-up on you. It was, we all help each other because we all need each other. And what I'm seeing now as a comedian, and especially when I went to VidCon this year, when you've got the producers from the ABC and you've got the script writer for major shows like Prisoner and a lot of other shows are coming to VidCon and approaching YouTubers because they need shows that sell. So I looked at it and I went, right, that's what I'm going to do, because otherwise I'm wasting my time. The stand-up comedy scene and community is this. It's the definition of madness. We'll all turn up at the same places every day, every week, do the same bits to each other and expect a different result. And they're all focused on winning the raw comedy competition, which they don't realise they're looking for a television character. They all think, oh, I'm just funny. And the truth is it's not. It's people like Ronnie Chang, international student, he won raw. And they did that because he actually is a character. And I found for myself, as trying to do that, I just realised I was just going to not get anywhere anytime soon. So doing YouTube by myself, and now that I've met David as well and a few other YouTubers, that David's been a wonderful help. Please listen to David. I encourage you to listen to David. Is that by building a community online, when I put things out online, I instantly get feedback. And I get feedback from real people. I am at the mercy of the public immediately. And that is actually one of the best things as a comedian.
Not gatekeepers.
They're not just gatekeepers, they're people.
No, I mean not gatekeepers.
Yeah, no gatekeepers, thank you. Sorry, I misheard what you said there.
Yeah.
What I found with that is that you are at the mercy of the public immediately. It is the public that decides who stands up and who makes them laugh now. Not some bunch of old, miserable people with inward-looking views that pick somebody just on the basis of their looks or the basis of what they think will sell. And that is one of the biggest things for me is about social media and online. So my niche is that I do the comedy that nobody else will do. And as I said, I'm trying to do political comedy, which is really, really hard. And it is not easy. But the only other person who does it and does it well is Friendly Jordies. And he gets his facts wrong half the time. But somehow he's getting sued. He's getting sued by Clive Palmer.
That's just because he called him a big fat fuck, wasn't it?
He actually got 2 of his facts wrong.
I feel like Clive Palmer will sue everyone eventually.
Yeah, eventually you'll get around to us all.
Clive Palmer's a cunt. Anyway.
Yeah.
But in saying that, if he can build a community with he's up to nearly 400k now. I mean, why can't I do it? And that's what I look at, and that is the thing about being a comedian online, is that people will say, hey, this is funny, or especially as a woman who likes to swear a lot, I get some of the most disgusting comments in the world. And, but don't worry, I just use those in other videos. So, yeah, but for me, I find, especially I get a lot of female fans now, and I do actually have high school girls that watch me, and
What's much point to me there?
because David pointed that out. He's like, oh yeah, your fans at VidCon, how old were they? They were about 14 years old. Oh right, so you have high school kids that follow you, right? And I think that's the thing. So yeah, I think the one thing about doing online as a comedian is that it really teaches you a lot of things you never would learn in a pub in a stand-up room with a bunch of drunks. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, in the deep dark past when I started, I had this idea of wanting to be a stand-up comedian.
Don't.
No, because I had a bunch of friends who were stand-up comedians. That was one of the reasons I didn't. Because I started doing YouTube, and I found out even a small, mildly successful channel will have more audience and more interaction
Yeah,
than a
definitely.
very successful comedian
Yeah,
would.
absolutely.
Like if a comedian got 100 people in
Oh,
a
that's a
room,
big night for them.
that's a big night. And you know, me and my middling YouTube channel getting like thousands of views in a week would blow their mind.
I get more views on YouTube with a bad video than I do in a stand-up room. I did a gig with Dave Thornton, right? He turned up in a stand-up room, and or the only audience that turned up for this night were other comedians. And there was about 7 or 6 people, and for them that was a big deal. And he turned up and he did his set. 3 people wanted to enter the bar and he scared them away. That's what did it for me.
Yeah.
And he looks at me with a frightened look and he left. And even the guy at the end of the night, I did my set, because how dare I go for 7 minutes and actually be funny? And he turned around and he goes, you know what? There's no one here. You know my bits, I know your bits, so fuck it, let's all get a beer. And that was January 2018. And that's when I went, I'm not doing this ever again. And in July of 2018, I posted a video called Story Time, you know, bad sex story time. That got me a gig at RMIT TV. One video on a wrestling show. And that's what did it for me. I went, this is actually giving me results.
Yeah, and there's the thing. I mean, you see lots of success stories like the catering show stuff.
Oh, the catering show.
Very, very serious, professionally done YouTube channel, but they started as a YouTube channel and.
But they were stand-up comedians that went, fuck it, we'll do it ourselves.
Yeah.
Superwog's the same.
Yes.
Superwog is a massive success story. But he was like one of an OG YouTuber.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And the guy who was the producer of Superwog was at VidCon doing a panel.
Yeah.
And like he said, the 3 things I
Yeah,
want.
Princess Pictures.
Yeah. And did you hear what he said? He goes, simple. 1, do I like you? 2, do I want to work with you? And 3, will you do it without me?
Yeah.
He didn't care. He just wanted people that sell. Same with Netflix. If you have a following now, they'll put you up there. Colleen Ballinger got a Netflix special.
Yeah.
Miranda Sings, comedian. But
Oh, she had a series.
she got a series and she got a Netflix special. And you know what all the media people said to her? How come all other comedians are funny and you're not? Why do people find you funny? Miranda Sings would never work in the stand-up world, and that's what did it for me. Lily Singh would never get anywhere in the stand-up world because she is a woman of colour who takes the piss out of Indians. Sorry, Southeast Asians. But that's the thing. That's what did it for me. Hannah Hart was exactly the same. Never would get anywhere, and that's why my community is so important, because you know why? When I get it big enough, I can walk into a television producer and go, I have X amount of people that watch me. Lily Singh's doing it now, and that's how she got into movies. I had 11 million subscribers. Put me in a movie. She did it.
Yeah. She's a late night TV host now.
Yeah, it's because she's got 14 million subscribers.
She's doing gangbusters.
There's a lot of hate for her at the moment, but I
She
support
uses
her.
the same laugh track over and over.
Yeah, that's not good.
That's TV, man.
That's TV, man.
But Justin, yourself,
To touch on what David said about there are more people outside of like your target audience than within it, and so trying to grow your community or your viewership is usually should be your target. And so with Nerf being fairly niche, so I did Nerf 3D printing. We deliberately named the channel nothing involved with Nerf or foam or dart or anything like that. So then that way we could do whatever we want that we were interested in. It was kind of, that was the idea of the channel anyway. And yeah, I guess
Same here, by the way. You might notice that
Yeah.
I'm on the biggest archery channel, but no archery in my name at all. So there's
Yeah.
no branding at all. So that flexibility in having a fairly neutral name means they identify your brand, but it doesn't have to be exactly like what you make. I mean, you think about today in terms of marketing. What's McDonald's?
Real
you know,
estate.
Yeah, it's a name. There's no branding. It's not like McDonald's burgers, you know, or like Hungry Jack's, or it's Burger King as Kentucky Fried Chicken. Yes, but yeah, people really put a lot of emphasis on the name.
this then ties into what I was going to say, something that you mentioned, Lisa, that you said that characters, you know, is what is popular within like the stand-up scene. I would say that developing an online persona is just as important for YouTube, because if you look at a lot of within any kind of domain, I see this within camera review channels, I see this with vloggers and all that kind of thing. A lot of these guys have personal branding or and have a developed, I guess you could say, creative voice and persona. So like when I say any of their names, something, and if you know of them, an image will conjure up in your mind immediately. And I think that's maybe a mistake that we maybe made with Made Test Battle, or naming it that. But at the time when we started, it was like 3 of us. And yeah, so that's like kind of, I guess, the origin story. I was already a part of a community, and no one was really making the content that I wanted to watch. I guess similar
Same
to
with
what you.
me.
And so, or at least there was already some people doing it, but basically they were using an iPhone camera in a dimly lit room and terrible audio and everything. And so we deliberately kind of got into it, and we actually, the 3 of us moved in together. So it was originally myself, Ryan, and Alex. We moved in the same house, and it became the Nerf house, and basically that was one of our goals of moving in together, is to start a YouTube channel and upload weekly and try and, you know, grow the Nerf scene in Melbourne. And I'm now rebranding it to Dartsoft, so I may start saying Dartsoft. I'll get to that later. Anyway, but yeah, and just doing things that no one else was doing. So step-by-step instructional guides, like that's one way to start growing your channel, that kind of thing. Utility. I think you've talked about that before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Utility,
Well, there's
like being useful and.
There's a couple of key things to help you on YouTube. One thing is to be topical, because YouTube is the 2nd biggest search engine on the internet. The first being Google. YouTube is bigger than any competing search engine after. When people want to know something, they search. Search for 2 things: topical, news of the day, and second, utility stuff. Stuff that's all. There's a video, how to tie a tie, that's been viewed well over 100 million times. I suspect all by young men just before a job interview. It's like, you make something that is forever useful, it will forever show up in search.
Yeah.
If you're doing something topical, if you hit the right topic,
At the right time.
at the right time, spike. I mean,
Yeah, that's right.
and I've seen, and because I do topical stuff usually, and I love it when I predict what it doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes it's like, you just kind of predict what everyone's going to be searching for in the next 24 hours. I've seen spikes of like more than 10 times above my normal, just because I picked right.
Yeah.
But that's a real lottery. Sometimes what you think is what everyone wants to know is not what they all want to
And
know.
at the same time too, it might be what like 100 other people have guessed as well. So you've got like you're already competing against other people in the same topic.
And that's what we kind of noticed too within the community, and we were already looking at what was happening on YouTube, and we saw these channels who kind of, I guess, were making targeted kids content for Nerf and that, and they were starting to break hundreds of thousands of views and then millions of views. And it's like, whoa, where are all these? And that's why I brought up the phone thing, and now every child has their own phone because now they're a viewer. and now we're seeing the repercussions of that 10 years later, I guess 5 years later now, where now regulators coming down on YouTube, and YouTube's then coming down on content creators.
But it's a
with
natural,
copper.
but it's a natural progression.
Yeah.
Like television is regulated, and the reason it's regulated is because it has to be. Like, I'm sorry, I have to say this because, like, especially with some kids' content, like I've seen like some.
Oh
pretty
yeah, no.
serious
I
shit.
think everyone who's complained about it has said, yeah, like the what was it? Children's Online Privacy Protection Act is a good thing, and it was YouTube who who actively were collecting children's data.
Yeah, you
That's
can't
why they
blame
got
them.
sued. Fined $170 million. Just now they've added in another thing, another hoop to jump through the YouTube algorithm. So when so now I'm getting off topic. I don't know.
Okay,
No, it's
That's
about
like-
community though.
Yeah.
It's about community because that affects community.
It's-
Kids' channels are now affected. They don't
Yeah.
get comments.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
don't get like the same kind of ads. They don't get the same kind of traction or anything like that.
So because we were kind of a normal, I guess what's the word,
Family.
inoffensive kind of topic. We used to swear and stuff. We were kind of like our target audience were more like teenagers and older, and other adult nerfers and that kind of thing, and just to be kind of funny. So when the first kind of wave of adpocalypse happened, it didn't really affect us because, I guess like it was Nerf is inoffensive, like
But big noise,
tough.
you know. It's
Yeah,
not like,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
not a gun channel where you're
but
shooting
then
people.
after the YouTube shooting, whereas that woman came in and then they kind of cracked down on the word gun, and so like a lot of the gun channels on YouTube, because the algorithm is kind of blind for about I guess 4 months there. If we put Nerf gun, which most children search for because they're not searching Nerf blaster, we would get flagged as like, oh, this is inappropriate. So I've been tagged on videos that we've stopped swearing in, and then it's just a review video of what's come out. It's been deemed demonetized, and then it's like have to get it manually reviewed, and then actually it is fine, but it doesn't matter. It's
too late now.
it's a day's passed, and the first day of like viewership's gone. So
They really need to fix that.
and now, I guess you may have, if you guys follow the YouTube sphere and all that kind of thing, you've heard for the last 2 months the doom and gloom of copper, a government agency that's underfunded is going to magically sue everyone. But that's not the real threat. The real threat is now YouTube's algorithm now targets basically children's content. And what I've noticed is with friend YouTube channels, and I try to avoid this with my own, is if you upload a video, YouTube's trying to work out who to send that to, and so the first thing that they get is what the actual content is. They'll do a voice to text search through the video. So Casey Neistat never used to use tags. That's fascinating if you think about that with his channel.
Well, he was an OG though, wasn't he?
No. Oh, well, sort of.
No, he's like second or
But-
third wave, really.
But yeah, a lot of the searches that he would get would just be from his own popularity and his persona, but also just the search words, stuff that he talked about in the video would come up through search. So what you say is getting monitored now, automatically detected by the algorithm and whatnot. So anyway, after you first upload for that first 24 hours and it needs to get a sample size, it's going to send that out to just random viewers. And so the problem I noticed was because of the word Nerf, that's children's toys, I got put into the children's toys algorithm, and I've seen this with my other friends' channels, and right there is like the nursery rhymes videos and all this other crap, and the young children's review channels, and so a lot of that is like, that's not the audience that I'm after. So now it's become, so that's, I guess now that brings up why I'm starting to try and say darts off with my videos, is because I guess our target audience for the gameplay videos that I do, edited gameplays, is more in the line of what the airsoft and paintball community do, and that's kind of an ethos that we've always had within our own community, that we're just another skirmish game of a different caliber. And anyway, so I guess I've gone into search stuff.
Go into stuff.
That's all good.
YouTube
But
stuff,
I think that's
yeah.
important in community because people want to be able to find you.
But yeah, so anyway, I guess that's the next topic we could bring up is discovery. Like, how do
Do
you?
a question.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yep.
Okay. I've got a question for each of you. From your experience and whatnot, I think we'd all like to know when building a community, right, in Discord, what has worked for you guys, like from your experience?
Specifically in Discord, or just?
Or it could be anywhere, right? Like
I
your own
don't
forum.
use Discord.
Yeah, or whatever platform you use. Like, do you sometimes host, I don't know, giveaways for your, for the community that you've built, or how do you help them out and keep them within the community? Because I think it's easy for people to find you, but then having them stay in your little sphere, it would be the.
Okay, just before and we answer, Brian's trying to
Just like repeat his question for the microphone.
recorder.
Okay, alright.
So the question was,
How do you maintain a community online?
or get a
Like,
community started?
what has worked? Yeah, what has worked
What has
for you
worked
guys,
for us
like,
to keep the community
from your experience?
Practical
Like,
things that have worked.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
you test it out or something like that.
You're not gonna like this answer. So
Oh, go Justin.
okay, it's it is weekly uploading at a bare minimum, and actually watchable content that people actually sit through and watch. Now, it's like, you've always heard content is king, and it's still true today, because if there's nothing there to build upon, then no one's going to stick around and watch. And so now with the YouTube analytics, I know it can be a little scary to go in there, but I find it fascinating because you get instant feedback of when you edit. There's a video recommendation. There's a guy called this guy edits, and he's got a video called how to gain the YouTube algorithm or whatnot, and it's like he has 5 tips, and basically what he did is he released a video, and he in the analytics it gives you a timeline graph of actual watch time statistics of how long people are watching. Yeah.
He's an old guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen this
no.
video.
Yeah, and anyway, when he originally released this video, he noticed that there's this giant dip in in interest, and he rewatched it, and he worked out he could edit that whole section out, and then he re-released the video under a different title with a different thumbnail, and then all of a sudden, it took off, because just that one dip at the start killed it in the algorithm, but also you've also got to socially engineer it in a way that, just when you do your own edit, can you actually sit through your own video? And that's kind of always been my measuring stick. And that consistency of upload is also like another social engineering thing, that you, as a persona in someone else's mind, becomes part of their weekly, or if you can manage it, daily habit of, I want to catch up with Justin on Make Test Battle, or whatever it is that you want to do. So that's why I think that builds a community quicker than anything. One guy who I've watched from the start, when his first video popped up on my suggested feed, was a guy called Potato Jack. And so, he's awesome. And basically he was a bit of a nervous dude, but he had experience being a cinematographer in LA. And the way that he would first get noticed, he'd get his cinema camera that he's borrowing for a gig and compare it to the iPhone camera. It's an absurd comparison, but it got him clicks. But his persistence to upload just once a week, he's now, I think he's 500,000 subs, and now he gets invited to events, he gets sent review copies of stuff, and now I think he's at the point where it now is one of his primary incomes while he's still doing the cinematography gigs with his company. So, Yeah, that's yeah.
I might answer this question more directly. So you're asking about building your own community, and you mentioned this as an example. I'll talk about it directly. One of the mistakes I think which many creators start off with is you start from zero, and you're trying to build a community around yourself. Nobody knows you, nobody cares about you, nobody wants to watch you.
Target a pre-existing community.
And that's what I'm going to hit right away. Work with an existing community first.
Yeah.
Okay? Because whatever your niche is, it could be investment, could be nerf, could be archery, could be anything. There is already a wealth of communities, not just on like one place. It might be Discord, might be Reddit, might be a forum, might be a gaming forum, there might be Facebook groups. There are lots and lots of communities. Make yourself known in a community or in multiple communities. Be part of a community first. Get people to trust you, to recognize your name, to recognize your brand. Okay? When I started making
the forefront for all of this is that you actually have to be interested in it.
Yeah.
Because people can pick up on,
it,
well, yeah, people can pick up on fake really easy.
Absolutely.
Of like, because I've seen it happen a bunch of times where some kids have filmed a Nerf war like action scene and then posted it to the Facebook groups, and everyone's just like, yeah, okay. Whereas specifically like with my community, it's cool modding, that's kind of thing where people cut up Nerf blasters and glue them together and do amazing paint jobs with automotive paint and that kind of thing, and then do performance mods and that kind of stuff. And so find a pre-existing community and find work, and like you'll be able to sense it yourself what kind of videos aren't already being produced.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, but you have to be involved in the community. All right. When you are personally involved, firstly you show that you care. All right, and you show more of awareness of what the community needs and wants. That's why I built my channel mostly. I originally worked isolated. Somebody asked, "Hey, can I post this video on the archery subreddit?" I went, "I've never been there, but sure, if you want to." Checked it out. It was this huge trending video, and it was just like rage reaction video. People loved it. I went, "Oh, there's a community here." Joined up. That's why I joined in the first place, is for the archery community. And basically every thread I answered. If it's a question, how do I do this? What should I buy? What should I do? I answer that first. Then I'll make a video. And the next person asks the same question, I'll repeat the same answer. By the way, I've made a video about it too, for further viewing. It wasn't spamming, it'll be very important. Not spamming stuff people don't want to watch.
Yeah.
Somebody asked for it. So my goal was, I'm gonna save people a lot of effort, the entire community, by making redundant basically, right? So every newbie question which I saw, I would respond to and make a video about. That was where my inspiration came from. As this becomes more commonplace, other people start promoting you for you. Basically, hey, you said I already made a video about this, check it out. Oh, I've already seen it. Oh, I made another video about it. So it becomes this treadmill. But once you start becoming more involved, once you get fitted up, you can step back and go, all right, I know somebody else, it's actually a bit of a game I play. How long does someone link to me? Someone asks a question, I answer it, and there's like 3 people already linking me. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'm going to answer that. But the point is, you've got to be present. Even now, I'll reappear on Reddit on Discord, and I'll say hi, I'll answer the question, oh my god, it's new Sensei! It's like, you know, I've been here for ages, but...
I've been here for years.
Exactly. I'm like, oh, you're on Reddit. Yeah, it's my name on Reddit too. It's the same channel name. But yeah, point is that you've got to be involved. You make use of current communities. Once you start making a name for yourself, becoming prominent, you can start kind of poaching people towards your own community. You set up your own Instagram, post your regular photos, set up your Facebook page where you can share videos, and recognize that every platform has an advantage. You want to post a picture of a meme, do it on Reddit. If you want to post a 30-second short from your channel, put it on Instagram TV or put it on Facebook. You don't want to upload the wrong things to the wrong places.
Yeah.
You put a link on Reddit, no one watches. No one's going to watch 20 minutes on Reddit. They're there for like 2 seconds. They'll click on like, they'll upload a meme, they'll like a kitten, but they won't watch a 20-minute video. But if you put something on your chat, on your Facebook page, and say, here's a 15-minute preview of what we did in our last match, and you link the whole video, you drive people across all your platforms. You have your empire. This is the end goal, is you have your empire.
It's like a dragnet.
Yeah.
For lack of a better word. Basically, every video you upload is a new node and you want to connect it to as many things as possible. And so the moment, and you keep doing that weekly upload until one day you find something that's both topical and has utility, and then all of a sudden you get this wave that the YouTube algorithms like blows that up.
Yeah, but I think I'd like to interrupt you there.
Yeah.
I think if anything, you also need to work out who your audience are in the first place.
Oh yeah.
Who in the hell are you trying to talk to? That's pretty basic. You know who I talk to? I talk to women, because I am a woman. But I don't talk about hair, I don't talk about makeup, I don't talk about my period. For fuck's sakes, every female comedian talks about their period and guys that they date. You know what I talk about? I do comedy videos about fucking Ivan Milan. I do comedy videos about politicians, which I haven't done many of, but I'm trying to do. I do things that people won't do, but it's like, but a woman does it. It's like, yeah, but I have a brain, and a lot of women have brains, but no one respects that. And that's the thing. That's the audience I target. And I've actually got women actually coming to my Facebook page now and actually starting to have conversations about a lot of stuff. I post a lot of articles relating to women, especially about religious freedom bill and abortion and about, you know, LGBTQI rights. And I talk about, you know, Scott Morrison's always a great topic. But you know what I mean, like things that are relatable to the people I'm trying to aim for. The people I'm trying to aim for are me, but also I didn't have a me as a teenager. And that's what I'm trying to do. I didn't have a Lisa who was the plus size girl that was pretty. That's what I'm trying to do. But also a lot of women don't have a woman like me who's willing to basically tell it like it fucking is. And that's what it is. And it's all well and good to do all these different things, but at the same time, if you don't know who the bloody hell you're trying to target, you're just running around trying to grab at the air. And no one can follow that.
Yeah.
So who do you target?
Just said.
So where do you post your videos or try to build your
YouTube
network?
and Facebook, and also now I'm giving Instagram TV a go because Instagram TV seems to be quite popular.
No, I mean like with some of the topics of your videos and that, you could find pre-existing
I do. I find a lot of. I actually find I'm a single woman, so I find a lot of singles groups really work really well. I try and post in a lot of political communities. I try and find like a lot of like news communities, like basically wherever I think that topic will fit, I'll give it a go. That's basically what I do. And if I get kicked out of the group, I get kicked out of the group. And if I don't, I don't. And if anything, for me, what's been really working is posting in a lot of singles groups. There's a lot of men watch me now too. And that's the thing, because they go, oh, she's really pretty, but what the fuck is that? And like a lot of women who are my age, who are single, are online looking for people. But they're also looking for friends, but they also want someone they can go, hey, have you heard of this Lisa Carroll? Like she does this stuff that I can relate to. You know, like reading out my shitty Tinder chats, which is always fun. Oh, there's some pearls. But that's what I'm saying. Like it's, for me, as someone who's been doing online, it's been a bit of a battle as to trying to find who I want to talk to.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm bringing this up. And until David came along, please listen to David, for God's sakes. Can I ruminate this enough? I was a bit like this. And then David came along and went, hang on, what are you doing? You've got a great concept here, Lisa, but who are you talking to? And what is your point? Because there are people that will sit there for years online and they'll do all different things and they get nowhere. And they get nowhere because they won't sit back and look at themselves and go, hang on, who am I and what am I doing? That's why I brought up the stand-up comedy scene. Same thing. There was one guy I met who'd been there for 12 or 14 years. And you know, the only thing he did was be an extra on an ABC TV show. But he couldn't see himself. That's what I'm saying. Look at what you're actually trying to do. Make goals, make lists, and also, as David said, get yourself known in communities.
And
It's
so
very
pulling it back
important.
there, I think I get the direct answer to the question again. In terms of running a
Thank you.
community, things like giveaways, they can be cute. All right, I've got a couple myself. they can be cute, but it's more like communities are built around a person now. Okay, so you might start off by
giveaways don't work unless you already have a pre-existing
Exactly,
viewership to actually, because
I'm going to get a drink of
you
water.
can't. It's really obvious if someone posts in a group or somewhere hey guys, click on this for this for this giveaway.
Especially at the cheapest side. I'm at 100 subs. I'm doing a giveaway right now. It's like 100,000 maybe, but 100.
Look, I'd much rather you offer up an actual piece of content that is like you've put thought and effort into trying to watch. Because because I think that's what you're actually engaging with it.
Yeah, and even like a giveaway can work as a burst, but it's usually not sustainable.
Yeah, it's mostly to celebrate rather than to grow.
Yeah.
I hope that answers your question.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, sorry, just to finish, my advice is, like I said, tap into an existing community and start building your own. Understand that different platforms are different communities. I've been running Facebook and YouTube parallel for about 5 years now. YouTube is 150,000, Facebook's like 15,000. So it's a different community. Some people might only watch you on one platform, not the other. So you can't drive people between your platforms. Some will only watch your watch your videos on YouTube. Some will only look at your Twitter posts. Some will only look at your Instagram photos. But you're basically setting up a presence online, so that when people do, if you're on Facebook and they do see like a post from like a video clip that you made on YouTube, I did watch the guy on YouTube. My funniest anecdote is I went viral on Southern Asian traits somehow. I posted a thing about my accent because one of my viral videos, people couldn't figure my accent. I'm Asian Aussie, so this typical Asian Aussie accent, but everyone in America couldn't figure it out. So I posted a meme on the Southern Asian group, which is a 2 million person community, which nothing to do with what I do, and everyone loved it. It was like everyone loved the accent. It's something to relate to. So communities you don't normally interact with, and a lot of people thought, hey, I've seen this guy before. He's like that guy that plays violin. I'm like, no, I'm not that guy. But the point is, that's exactly what I'm talking about, right? So yeah, it's like the funny thing is you want to build recognition across everything, and once people know you. And this is a gradual process. You don't become famous overnight. You become known as that guy. Okay? And that's basically community is run multiple platforms, specialize in what people need from those platforms, whether it's text posts, whether it's blogs, whether it's a website, whether it's photos, and make yourself active in everywhere. If you neglect something, you might lose opportunities. I didn't have Instagram active for years, and I went back 5 years later, I have about 5,000 people following me. I've like 3 pictures. And since then, I've been posting people regularly now. I started doing more things. Apparently, I'm Instagram famous. I didn't realize it. But
we weren't very active on Instagram for ages, and now I've started. But I always did, because I was an admin for the group, so Humans vs Zombies Melbourne, and also Melbourne Nerf Wars, and I would just whip out my camera and take event photos and that, and I was basically putting the photos into just an album and then dumping that album somewhere, and then it wouldn't get viewership. But now, if I'm going to put in the effort to edit all these photos and make them look as good as they can, I now start uploading them as a trickle on Instagram. And so, it's like it's another node in the network.
Exactly.
Can I just say, for me, as a female on Instagram, is actually a good thing. Because whenever I post something like the way I'm looking right now, it gets a lot of traction, because that hooks in my audience into women. Because women go, oh, what is she wearing? Oh, so I've actually tried it where I posted a photo of myself looking really lovely and say link in bio, and I found I get more traction to YouTube. Because it's like, oh, hello, oh wow, you look so lovely, Lisa. Oh, what's this? Link in bio. Oh, okay, I'll put that. Because they go, oh wow, but that's the same thing as hooking back into community, being relatable, and that's the other thing. If you don't know of a creator called Roberto Blake, I obviously think any YouTuber should go check out his channel. The man is a genius, and he actually posted a thing which I think will sum up this completely. How to win on YouTube in 2020. Stop chasing numbers, reply to every single comment, have zero expectations, improve your audio quality, make something shareable, stop making lazy thumbnails, become known for something, find an audience to serve, and keep uploading. Which I think is pretty much.
Artie had a question.
Yeah,
sorry.
No, you're right. How much time do you spend, well, not time spent, but do you put a lot of effort into breaking your niches or your communities down into age groups as well? Because obviously if you're targeting or kind of trying to make relatable content for teenagers, that'll be much different to like 60-year-olds in the same kind of niche.
No, I honestly don't think there's that much of a difference.
Sorry, Justin. For the purpose of recording, Brian just wants me to repeat his
Yeah,
question.
so-
How much effort does everyone put into breaking down the viewership into the subcategories, as in ages, etc., that you can do with the metrics? And Justin, roll.
Don't.
Yeah, don't.
Yeah, my answer is 0 time. Alright, analytics matter, but I really don't care that much about age group. Sometimes it surprises. It can pop out like you see really old people, like in the 70s, watch my content and go, whoa, okay, that's cool, that's really nice. And sometimes little kids watch it, that's cool too. But I'm making content. I think the point is I'm making my content. I'm not really targeting a particular like age group or particular gender. I'm just making the content. People will find me. Sorry about
Because
that.
you end up like Jake Paul or Lele or whatever.
Lele Pons?
Yeah,
Oh,
they're-
don't get me
these
fucking
weird
started.
pantomimes. Those.
But
where-
Lele's a comedian, right?
Yeah.
No, Lele
that's-
appeals to 10-year-olds.
Yeah. Yeah, or they admit it and then they.
And then they
deny it,
sell
yeah.
them makeup inadvertently.
Yeah. And so, that's, yeah, I think, and that's also like why YouTube's coming down and Copper's coming down, is that there were those children pantomime channels and that kind of thing. And it's also like the whole, how do you market to millennials? Is I've seen millennials be as vague as under 40 and you own a smartphone.
I know how to tick. I'm
It's
35, right?
Yeah.
So like 7 years ago, I was Gen Y. Right?
That was a marketing thing.
Yeah, but I had a manager
But
say to
that's-
me, they go, you're Gen Y, Lisa, you're a bit different to everybody else at work. I went, I'm an adult and I don't know how insulted I feel. And now I'm a millennial? That's a new one.
They're all made up terms by
See, the only
marketing
woman
to
in the
try and
room's on the
quantify.
Yeah, no, I was super disturbed about being called a millennial.
See, I'm relating to the only other woman in the room.
Because the
Tiny
whole term
audience.
is actually very deliberately generic. So then that way they can just throw that into news articles and titles.
Yeah.
And then people, then it's like, oh, is this applicable to me? I don't know, because it's so vague. And there are no real set dates for Gen X or a lot of those
It
dates.
keeps changing whenever BuzzFeed feels like it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and
I wouldn't recommend like deliberately targeting an age group. Just make the content you want to make, and the age group and the audience you want will come to you.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll just shoot an avocado and say, "Hey, millennials, watch me." That doesn't work that way. So
Knowing you would.
I probably would.
I was so glad you all said not at all, because I thought you were going to have some really methodical thing, and I was just going
Far
to
out, no.
I don't do that at all. I was really glad to hear you say that.
I think what we've been saying already answers the question.
We appreciate your question.
Yeah, thank
We
you.
do.
Target the community because or pre-existing communities, because when you think about it, there's a lot more difference in age groups within a lot of those communities, unless it's like something that's already been deliberately manufactured to target a specific age group. So if it is video, like if you're doing video game content or that, that's what will happen. It's like the Fortnite community is way different to the Dark Souls community, that kind of thing. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So is there a platform? Sorry.
No, no.
Yeah,
So
go
is there a platform that you guys use to get actual statistics? So the other day I jumped on Social Blade. I was kind of curious. Yeah. No, I've got.
Finish the question, Rob.
So I jumped on Social Blade and I was like, okay, cool. There's a website there. This is stuff. I wonder how real this is. And then I started looking at the top performing ones, and it's basically like music and kids. And so I was kind of trying to follow a trend. I wanted an experiment to try and loop the lowest hanging fruit to try and produce this content stat, make as many videos as possible, just post and see what happens. So I was trying to find like a thing to target. But I'm curious, like, is there a place that you can actually get that data information to try and put some patterns together? Maybe use like SEO Rush or SEO.
Okay.
I'm going to repeat the question
Yeah.
again. So Rob's question was, do we have a preferred site for actually finding that sort of...
Wait, did you say
real-
analytics?
Analytics, just like real information.
So
you kind of
it's a two-parter: analytics and finding trending topics. Yeah.
The trending page on YouTube's a pretty good place to go.
I would disagree this one.
Okay, I'm a baby YouTuber, so don't.
Yeah.
don't.
Well, wait, what was the question? Yeah.
Well, the question was, so sort of sites I think we're talking about, are there sites that can help you with demographic type information and what's working? There's Social Blade, there's TubeBuddy.
I use TubeBuddy. TubeBuddy's brilliant. Yeah, really good for the money.
I've never used Social Blade.
It's live.
And also, Social Blade can only access what is visually made public by, but yeah, what's on like the surface level of YouTube. And apparently, they said that last year that YouTube was going to make it harder for them to collect that data anyway.
YouTube's going to
So-
hide subs apparently.
Yeah. So what the thing that I've always used the YouTube analytics. Even the old system, I thought it was fine. I don't know why they're updating it now, but apparently some people found it hard to read. But essentially, yeah, you look for watch time, user engagement, that kind of percentages, and that's basically super accurate now. And now the newest feature that they've added to analytics is real time.
Views, real-time views.
Real-time reach, where you'll actually see click-through. So, what's the terms? Sorry.
The click-through rate?
Yeah, the click-through rate of your thumbnail, because that's where a lot of discovery does happen. Is your title and thumbnail clicky in the side panel?
What if you don't have access to this? I'm still very new to YouTube. I don't have any analytics at all.
I feel
I
like
can-
you're
Can you
more
do-
about external things. So
I can help you as a baby YouTuber.
Yeah, I'm so down for a mentor.
I'm a baby. How many? I don't mean to be rude, but how big is your channel?
I have like 17 subscribers.
Honey, I've got like 221. Don't worry, we'll get you
Okay,
there.
awesome.
Okay. But what you've got to look at as a small YouTuber, because you've got to remember, if one person who's female watches the video once, it will say 100% female.
Wait, I just want to clarify something. So you can't go to YouTube analytics?
I can get my analytics, but I'm trying to. So I wanted to separate it from my channel and do it as a creative exercise. I wanted to find the thing that's the lowest hanging fruit, easiest to produce, and I was going to combine those two things just to execute.
From what I understand, the question is basically how can you find out your potential reach rather than what you currently have, which you don't really have a current reach.
Yeah, because you
Well,
don't
to
have
answer
that.
the first part, yeah, the most accurate way to get feedback on how well your video is doing and how much click-through, the YouTube analytics is the most accurate. There's some tutorial videos on how to decipher it and understand it.
In terms of how to get new information that you don't yet have, Google Trends is something you can look up. So you can basically go to Google Trends, search up a term, and it'll find out the top 10, whatever. They also have like breakout topics. So if anything is trending going viral right now, you can track that on Google Trends. It doesn't help with many topics because sometimes things don't trend. I mean, I'm not sure how Nerf like goes viral somehow, but I know for archery, people say use Google Trends to find out trending topics. Search it up. It's some like low-key hunting event in Alabama. I'm like, okay, I'm not covering that. And then it's like Korean art of archery. What the hell? Okay, I might cover that. But point is that you can follow trends. But yeah, that's one way you can look at it is find trending terms, trending words. But in terms of potential demographics, I don't think this is really a site which covers that much extensive information that you have, unless you pay someone to research it for you, which you probably don't want to do. But the most important thing is, I think it's that connection with your own community. If you're involved, and this is for Nerf definitely, for archery definitely, I'm an
Well,
archery
even for
coach.
what I do, I can ask people what they want to see.
Pretty much, I'll go to the coach, so I know what people coming in want and who they are. It's often the mums, it's often the young kids who are too afraid to ask, but don't have somebody to ask. So real life interaction will often reflect online interaction as well. It might be a slight skewed bias towards certain things online, but you will have the most immersion if you have a real audience which you can identify in person.
Right. And with real interactions, what I've noticed on like when something new comes out or that kind of thing, I'll see the first person who makes their first comment on a new thing kind of can be the spark to set the trend of how the community feels about something.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
really having, if you can have friends who you can like chat to on Discord or that kind of thing, or have your own kind of, develop your own barometer for your community and what's on the horizon. For instance, like, what will be like trending for me will be whatever gets announced or released at New York Toy Fair.
Oh
later
yeah,
this
you
month.
do all the, what about in
So-
Canberra Toy Fair and all those?
Well, Melbourne, it's basically the Australian Australian retailers. Anyway, it's basically Australian Toy Fair. Happens here in Melbourne, and that's like a month later. But getting those announcements or that kind of thing of what's coming out from New York is like that will be. That basically is the roadmap of what's going to be popular this year, and you can kind of, if you're already established within the community, or you're a part of the community, that you're already actively interested. What are you personally interested? Because most of the time, it's the same thing what everyone else wants. So, for instance, with Nerf, just to use a specific example, is that when a new blaster comes out. There was one called the Kronos. When that launched, basically it was a 5 for the rival balls, which is like they shoot foam balls now, but they didn't release them in Australia because they're too powerful. It doesn't mean, yeah, I know, yeah. We've imported a couple and they're amazing.
It's a criminal.
You just admitted.
No, it's import's fine.
So that topic, but do you know Brad Tanner?
Who?
Brad Tanner?
Brad Tanner.
You don't know who Brad Tanner is?
No.
It's like the biggest importer of replica toy
It's,
guns.
well, we're not really that much into like the toy side of it. It's more the community and skirmish side of it, and we're just using these blasters. And it's and more of the community's moving towards 3D printing and making our own stuff because it's becoming clear that Hasbro doesn't want to interact with us.
I know that Hasbro shut down cosplayers. I know that for a fact. They've actually said cease and desist for modding guns.
Oh, yeah, sorry, to get back, where was I? Damn it.
Actually, can we ask you, what is your aim? What is your channel? What do you want to do? Who is your audience?
I've just been fascinated about YouTube because I feel like it's going to push a lot of intelligent conversation and get rid of like the stuff that television produces. So like, that's kind of that's why I'm moving towards it kind of. But basically I'm in a tiny home thing, so I'm a...
Oh, you're a tiny home person?
Yeah, I do. I render stuff professionally, so I make like photorealistic rendering. So I'm like using that knowledge to create spaces that kind of don't exist. But then I don't know. I want to like people just to talk about.
So have you researched that niche?
I have, yeah.
And what have you found? What's something that you haven't seen?
Kind of what I'm doing. I think.
What is that though?
It's just the way people present their ideas. It's creatively showing the process of creating. Like I don't know. That sounds really stupid. It's
not stupid because I'm actually helping you.
Yeah. So I have an architectural background.
Right. Okay.
So I feel like I ask the right questions and then I can present it in a way that's easy to consume.
So you're trying to dumb it down.
Yeah.
For people, for someone like me who has no idea what you do. Pretty much, yeah. Hopefully in a more interesting way to watch it, because I can like sketch and draw stuff. And
like I said, I think the fundamental thing is understanding your potential market is.
Yeah.
The more involved you are in your own audience and community, the better you can predict the trends. Right. Don't wait for the trend to happen and go, I want to make a video now. That's why I just did the trending page. It's already happened.
Yeah, it's gone.
It's already too late. Okay?
Or it's being manipulated by YouTube because whoever's paying them the most.
And they'll pick
or
the
if
next
it's
talk show
TV.
host to go on.
Yeah.
So try to be more proactive in your own community and sense what you think will be trending. And once you get big enough, you will be the trend. The moment you do something, then you become the trending topic. But that's way ahead in the future. Point is, I think there's no real place where you can get accurate data on who or when or what will happen. That's what creativity and that sense for your content and your community will give you.
Yeah.
Hence my questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it feels like you've got a very definite idea, and while nothing in this world is unique,
no, but
it's us are more unique than other ideas. Yeah. And I think a bit of research in communities, particularly like Elijah's been saying, I think you will find a way to coalesce what you're doing. I think you've got a lot of potential.
Especially with housing affordability being so hard and a lot of single people. You know, like the Today Show is giving away a bloody house. But that's what I'm saying, it's relating to your niche because I've got a friend and he wants to buy a tiny house. And he wants to buy a tiny house so at least he has an asset.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm saying, like it's relatable. It's related to that niche.
Yeah, I resonate well with. I think Dave mentioned that it's something that's a problem, and you feel like you want to watch this content.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm
An
trying.
audience to serve.
Yeah.
I want to point out something that's very interesting. Coming from, look at some big channels, small channels here.
And the baby.
There's a huge difference between how a big channel operates and how a small channel operates. It's like the size of the vehicle you drive, okay? So you might think in your niche, whether it's tech or gaming or sports, that all the big channels have got it first. If you want to do a review in your iPhone 26, some of those have already got it because they've got a preview version 10 years in advance. All right, so you can't beat big channels to the punch for big topics. But a big channel is like driving a bus. All right, a small channel is like riding a bike. You can whiz around things which big channels can't cover because, for example,
They have established content trends.
exactly.
that the
We
audience
are
is already
driving on a
expecting.
straight track, all right? We can't go, oh, so that's an interesting, I can't go back now and cover that topic, I'm going to cover the next topic. So if I miss something, that's a chance for small channels to go, hey, I didn't cover that. All right, if you're covering a phone thing, say iPhone 9 versus the Galaxy S11 or whatever, okay, if you do that, there's 10,000 people who've done that. But what if there's like something interesting which people haven't covered? All right, I call the second wave. The first I thought was reviews and previews. The second wave is tech problems. All right, how do you fix this? This is phone case with this phone. If you're smart about this, you can catch a topic which big channels aren't covering. This is why you don't have to be unique. You don't have to be first or the best audio. If you can cover a topic which people are looking for and predict it first, then you can cover what big channels don't cover. That's an advantage of a small channel, which many of you are probably in right now. You can whiz around and cover any random topic which pops up. And basically hope that one will get you more attention and start getting traction from there. And then you become a big channel, start driving big bus yourself. But until you reach the point where you can control the trends, you have to anticipate yourself and weave between what other people are doing.
Yeah, thank you. No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Can we address the elephant in the room? It seems that mostly YouTube is centered around America. The business is everything is done for American audience, and we are competing with lots of Americans. If we create our content, it seems that Americans are less. They are more reluctant to consume our content rather than the other way around. It's like, how do you address those audiences? And I do have the same issue as you do, David, because Americans have no idea where I'm from. My accent is like, what the fuck are you doing? What is this?
Okay, I'll just repeat.
Yeah, a fake accent.
Yeah.
That's bullshit.
Yeah. Okay. And his question is essentially, how do we compete with America as English-speaking video makers? America is clearly the dominant audience. A big channel in America is 10 to 20 million. A big channel in Australia is 100,000. So, panel, how do we compete with the dominance of the Americans?
Honestly, well, for me, for quite a few years, we were the second largest Nerf YouTube channel targeting the adult Nerf community. And we were known as those crazy Australians. So I don't think geographically can be a problem. And I think what you are more so describing is maybe an accent barrier. But one thing I want to point out is that is changing because we've now got more phones getting introduced to a lot of in Asian countries and that kind of thing. So like the biggest growing audience, and I think it's now getting bigger than the US, is India. Because
I get hits from India.
Because they got 1 billion people compared to 350 million people. So that's where the largest growth is already happening. And you'll notice like the biggest BTS, right, is like everyone mentions them with like if you talk about the top
Korean K-pop band.
yeah. If you talk about music on YouTube, BTS always comes up. So I don't think geography matters that much anymore.
It seems that they have put in a lot more effort to achieve a similar effect.
Okay, I'm having a go at this one. The first thing is to understand America is dominant because that's where the majority of the English-speaking market is.
Yeah.
So you've got 200 people in America. In terms of my analytics, number one is always America, always. Number two is UK. Number 3 is Australia and Canada, they always rotate, and number 4 is like 5 is Germany. So, you know, and 6 is like Norway, I don't know, it gets pretty weird after the first 5. But point is that if you are making English-speaking content, the demographic will naturally come from America because that's the majority, they've got like 70% of the pie. Okay, but you're not really, I don't think your content is necessarily locked into geography. As an archery channel, I'm the biggest channel. Screw America, right? They've got all these companies who are doing this, but I'm the biggest channel. Doesn't matter where I come from, and people will look past the accent. People will look past, they don't really care where you come from. They'll be curious. They might be curious enough, which is a good thing, generate intrigue about your persona, but you don't have to pretend to be something you're not. Because some of the best channels in any niche are international channels, and the people love them because of their accent.
Yes.
One of my favorite history channels is Military History Illustrated. It's a German guy. He has the best thick German accent, and people love him
I
because
like
of the
Lindy
accent.
Beige.
Your Lindy Beige is a great example.
He's so like earnest, or like he's like so dad.
Mm.
Like you know, like he wears a beige sweater and that's his thing.
Yeah.
He's very British, very old school in that, but for some reason has a following.
Yeah.
A massive following.
Yeah.
But
But
it's
I mean-
because of his content.
But I mean, like, from a comedian's standpoint, right? A lot of Australian comedians on YouTube are really big overseas because our accent is weird. That's what they love about it. They think the fact that we sound funny. And I've been to America twice, and every time they hear me, they're like, "Oh, you're from Britain?" I'm like, "No, I'm from Australia." "Oh my God, you're like Steve Irwin."
Yes.
That's the point. The point is, it's that curiosity factor, and I think that's the thing. They find novelty in curiosity, and you know, in my niche in particular, that's actually a good thing.
Yeah. And we're gonna, unless you wanted to add something else, David?
I'll add to it too is, if you feel that it's your persona and your accent and your delivery, which is affecting the way that you appeal to a different market, if you're going to play that game and appeal to the elephant in the room and play with the Americans, understand how they operate, how your audience clicks.
Yeah.
Certain content and delivery styles will resonate better with certain audiences. The reason why people love my content, apart from more than other sources, especially local sources, is I deliver things in a very clear and structured way. I'm a teacher, so I know how to structure a lesson. So when I deliver things, it's short, concise, scripted, and to the point. You can get your information in 5 minutes. Doesn't matter where I come from, how I speak necessarily, or what I look like. People are gonna go, wow, he's weird. It's like his voice is Australian, but his face is Asian. And it's like, well, it doesn't actually matter because the content is king. Now, if your delivery style is actually holding you back, if you decide to say, what's your content?
Make animated Dungeons and Dragons videos.
Okay, that's a great
you're
niche.
you're on a
All right,
different
that's
algorithm too.
that's a great niche too. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, your main appeal niche appeal is basically the nerd audience. All right, people love D&D. Now, if you can show any random D&D player your video and they don't get it, that's not necessarily something to do with your cultural background or your accent. There's something more complex than that. So think about how you can structure that video to the audience you want. If you want the mainstream D&D audience, it's going to be mainstream D&D, same thing, okay? So if you've got the main D&D audience, then you've got to look at what they like and structure your style to appeal more to them. Okay, does that make more sense to you?
Yep.
So don't see the American crowd as the enemy necessarily. Think of it as an advantage, okay?
What
But
is similar
in the end,
between
it's
those
your style.
communities? What is similar between those communities?
Which communities?
Wait, so you do D&D, sorry? Or,
Yeah, I
yeah. There will be similarities between like the Australian and the US D&D communities. That's stuff that is universal.
They have their own in-jokes and their own memes,
Yeah.
and they have all their own
Oh,
language
they can be.
and terminology.
Like you see that with LARP, where European and American LARP are kind of combative against each other because they are different cultures, but there are similarities that the game is kind of weird. But what was the thing? Sorry, continue on.
Well, okay, I'm trying to get to the point where we can have a break because there's
Sure.
pizzas.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah, I like that. But just to finish off with, I think,
Well, pizza.
don't necessarily think about it as the competing communities. If you yourself see yourself as above being a regional community, then that's who you are. If you're specifically not an Australian D&D channel, just a D&D channel, that's how you plug yourself as, all right? And the people will come to you, Alright, I'm an Australian archer and archery coach, but my content is international. It's always meant to be that way. So I don't face the same problem. People from every country will see the same content, go, this is amazing content. So yeah, be above the crowd. That's what you want to be.
Yeah, don't be generic. Or like, so something that was mentioned, and actually, and this is kind of like one of my gripes with VidCon and VidCon Australia. What I noticed is like 80% of the people turning up there seem to just be interested in the idea of being a YouTuber,
Yep,
not so much creating videos.
Yep.
And
or fan kids.
yeah, and so what I think, focus on making videos and don't worry about broad appeal, because if you are focused and super niche and interested, and you have, because your own interests follow that, then you're going to have a lot of knowledge on that, and then you can provide a lot of knowledge to whoever watches that video and that kind of thing. So don't be weird and be different. I'm going to link in the Facebook event page. I don't know if you can do comments in Meetup. Okay, yeah. There's 2 videos that I really want you to watch. This is your homework. Yeah, so this guy edits video. It's amazing and it works, and he has actual data and proof of what he's done. So yeah, how to game the YouTube algorithm. And a second video by Boy in a Band, Dave, the guy with the red streak, and he hangs out with every other YouTuber, though he only uploads like once every 6 months and gets 10 million views. But he did a really cool video looking at an article that was deleted by OkCupid. OkCupid did a giant data set and asked a whole bunch of men, is this woman hot or not? And rate that hotness on a scale of 1 to 10. And what they found is that the women who were less generic and maybe more goth, goth or eccentric.
Unique.
Yeah,
they get heaps of attention.
Yeah. Either people would have a polarizing reaction, but on average they would get a higher, hotter score. So if there are people, if you are like, I guess it is a little bit of a permission to offend people. But
you can
it's better to be niche and possibly polarizing than it is to just be generic and boring, because then there's nothing memorable about you.
Yep.
So if you can be a little bit weird, maybe let yourself be made fun of a bit, like be the jester a little bit, but not to the point that you degrade your morals.
Yeah,
but yeah.
I think it's hard to identify the persona. I mean, if you're going to be like the average white guy running a channel, then it's hard to identify the fit together. Right? I'm the Asian guy on the archery channel. There's the German guy, the Maltese guy, the Vedic guy, the old guy. But that's kind of how I associate the mainstream is that guy, insert adjective here, who runs insert channel here.
But that's the thing when I come back to comedy, and that's why I point out Miranda sings. Because Miranda sings technically shouldn't even be a fucking thing. But she is. And you know why Colleen Ballinger is a thing? Because she's weird. She created a character that smears makeup on her face, burps, eats Cheetos, and takes a piss out of musical theatre. And her biggest audience are kids. And like she said, the mothers hate me. And they hate her because she shouldn't even be funny. But even I find her hilarious. She's so funny. But she would never and she's different. I think that's the thing, you've got to be different. I'm hungry. Who's hungry?
Yeah, I really want to get the pizza. Yeah, okay.
Andrew's hungry.
So thank you everybody. I'll just do one final thing to say. Thanks for subscribing. Don't forget to subscribe to our Geek Meetup. And if you have any ideas of what geeky topics you want to present over the next few months, let me know. But aside from that, one of the ideas that we have is to cover next month is 3D printing. I would like a show of hand of who in here are very interested in 3D printing, because we have a whole bunch of like trinkets here which you could pick up afterwards as well. So aside from that, one more other things is that I also am running another group called Designing Open Democracy, where we cover topics about how to improve democracy. This is not for everybody, but for those who are really interested. We will have a fake news trivia night next week on 5:30 Friday, January 31st. So yeah, hope to see you then.